Hello, everybody. This is Tom Eckert here. You're listening to my podcast, Numerology, a GPS for the Soul. This is your place to learn about the true power of numerology and how to use it to bring out the best in yourself, understand your loved ones better, take wise decisions, and prepare for your future. In other words, how to live your life aligned with your true destiny. Take your time to educate yourself and share these podcasts with your friends and family so they too can enjoy the great benefits of numerology. Enjoy! Hello there, and welcome to all my listeners to the 5th episode in the series about the 6 ways the different life paths come into their power. And today we're talking about no other than life path number 5, a very dynamic, a very fiery, a very juicy energy. But before we dive in, if you're new to my podcast, then first of all, welcome. In this particular podcast, I discuss in-depth numerology as a path for inner transformation, spiritual growth, self-understanding, and the expansion of consciousness. As opposed to what I call pop numerology, I attempt to make numerology accessible and applicable in a deep manner so you can apply it for everyday life matters and use it to make your life truly better, more conscious, more balanced, more aligned with your true and original soul purpose in this lifetime. Now, here are a few ways you can dive deeper into numerology should you wish to do so. First and foremost, you can book a numerology reading with me. In a numerology reading, you can ask almost any question that is burning in your life and get precise answers tailored especially to you based on your chart, based on your numbers. You can read more about the types of readings that I offer and contact me through the link in the episode description to book your reading with me. Now, if you wish to study numerology on a deeper level, or possibly even pursue it as a career, I invite you to check out my numerology study paths, of which there are 2. First and foremost, check out my numerology self-study courses. They both give you the rare opportunity to learn numerology at your own pace on your mobile device, your tablet, your laptop. And my library currently includes 2 self-study courses, but more are planned and are coming up. Or if you want to be initiated into the real rare depths of numerology, you can sign up to my Complete Paths of Certification, where you study directly with me, one-on-one, and all the way from the level you're currently in, be it a complete beginner, intermediate, or advanced, all the way to a numerology expert, and you get certified along the way as a professional numerologist. Now, to read more, check out the links in the episode description. So without further ado, let us start talking about number 5. Now, in this episode, I will cover the 6 ways that life paths 5 can come into their power. But if you've been listening to previous episodes in this series, then you know already that the information I'm sharing here is also very relevant for anyone with a strong 5 in their chart. And a strong 5 means anyone who has 5 in their expression number or soulage numbers. Sometimes I call these 3 core locations the big 3: the life path, the expression, and the soulage numbers. Now, as always, most of the points I'll talk about are how to lean into your strengths, while some points will focus on what weaknesses you should watch out for. So let's dive right in. First and foremost, I highly recommend for you, the 5, to choose a flexible career. Now, even though we live in societies that leave the individual to pretty much fight for themselves when it comes to money, it's important for you as a 5 not to fall into the trap of safety. Now, while safety is important, if it becomes your number 1 priority, you'll very quickly feel dry, bored, and lose the sense of purpose and meaning in what you do. As a 5, you have to accept your dynamic nature and find yourself a career that gives you enough flexibility, change, and freedom. This can be a job that includes travel, interacting with new people, or simply gives you more freedom in choosing your working hours. Something as simple as that. Or alternatively, you can also be self-employed and choose your own rhythm. You should also allow yourself to have a field of choice that is a bit out of the norm. It's not a must, but it can be exciting and really works well with your type. Now, our jobs or careers, end up occupying a pretty significant chunk of our time, right? Of our life. And you, as a five, you want to make sure that this time is dynamic and enjoyable. Right now, last point maybe to be made in this regard is don't be worried if you don't have a clear career. This is something I see about a lot of fives. Like, as long as you manage to hustle your way around and make ends meet and are enjoying what you're doing and are enjoying yourself, then you're on the right path. So long as you're not hurting yourself in the process, right? Or violating your own boundaries. But there's some element of you is the hustler and enjoy it. You don't necessarily have to have one strict career path. You might be very talented in multiple things and simply hustle between them and make your money. So that's for that. Now, next point. Okay. Don't rush. I call it like don't rush to your own wedding, right? Like, now, maybe what I'll say here isn't relevant for all cultures. I know people listen to this podcast from many different cultures across the globe, many different countries. But let's say, especially for those living in Western cultures, it's important not to rush into premature commitments. Now, I'm all pro, learning to live in long-term relationships that are rooted in love and in freedom. But before you get married and have kids, make sure that your partner is someone who is willing to accept your need for freedom, for exploration, and for change. So don't get excited and get married too soon. Okay? Like that may really cost you your relationship eventually. The moment you feel fenced in, you start finding ways to escape and rebel. And that's exactly why I'd recommend giving yourself the time to choose someone with whom you can allow your life force and creativity to come forth. And only later on, after you have the right setting and space, maybe get married. Now, as for non-Western cultures, to the degree that you can. Some of your cultures are a little bit more what we would call traditional or based on arranged marriage and so on. There's less choice in that regard. But I would say to the degree that you can, try to find a match or partner that is open-minded and accepts your sometimes quirky nature. If you can have that, that's already gold. Third point. Breaking your routine, my friend, should be your routine. Okay, now, as a five, last episode was about the four, a completely 100 degrees different energy, right? It's all about routines and stability. But as a five, you should accept the fact that routine is simply not your thing. It's not your language. Your nature is that of constant change. And so should your life be an expression of exactly that. Find your own ways of hopping on a bus, a train, or an airplane to visit some unknown destination. Make sure to go out to nature, have fun, go on a party, or take on an interesting adventure, whatever it may be. Right? From time to time, let go into the mystery, into the wonder of life, and experience yourself anew by not knowing who you're going to meet, what you're going to do, where you're going to go. It's very, very vital for you just to let the moment dictate what comes next. If you play a musical instrument, enjoy improvising or team up with other people you never met before to just have some fun playing of songs or improvising or jamming together, songs you all love, whatever. Maybe you'll even find yourself throwing an unexpected concert. This can really happen for you as a five. Like, open the door to it. Point is, your nature is always going to be out of the box, out of the rule and the routine. So make sure to honor that in order to keep your flame alive and blazing. You are, after all, a rebel, a routine breaker. Our fourth point has to do with your shadows. But before I dive into that, if you are enjoying this podcast and you want to learn more in-depth and grounded numerology, make sure to subscribe, follow, and click on the notifications bell on the platform you're listening from, and make sure to become part of my numerology community. It really helps my work and allows me to keep developing what I do and keep providing you with free content. And it's also a joy to grow the community. Also, make sure to follow me on Substack, where I write in-depth content about the blend and the meeting point of numerology and Dharma. The link is in the podcast episode description. And lastly, my friend, make sure to comment. I would love to hear your thoughts, your ideas, and your questions, and I will always make sure to answer you. So, fourth point, don't overlook your own shadows. So, as a five, perhaps one of your greatest Achilles heels is your escapist tendency. Because of your light and dynamic nature, you unconsciously experience anything requiring depth, observation, and seriousness as a form of limitation on your freedom. And as a reaction, you often avoid dealing with the heavier stuff lurking under the surface of your being, namely your own shadows. You sort of tend to glaze over things, dismiss them way too easily, or flatten their significance, all in the disguise of chill, flow, or shallow answers that make pretend as if you're aware of your shadows, while in reality, having no intention on dealing with them for real. So, as a five, you must realize that some aspects of reality are simply universal and will not submit to your needs and desires to have it all light and easy and chill and cool. From time to time, like all of us, regardless of our numbers, you too will have to slow down and be serious about meeting yourself intimately, addressing your major shadows, and do the work it takes to grow through them and beyond them. It's a very valuable lesson because this is where you learn that although you're the master of shortcuts, incredible capacity, by the way, not everything in life has a shortcut. What an incredible lesson, right? Now, if you refuse to learn this lesson, your shadows will simply, well, fly back right back at you. Just spring back with added momentum, just like a boomerang, okay? But if you do deal with these lessons, you do, face your shadows, you do take the time for that, well, you're up for a tremendous leap of growth. So just remember that next time you're too hasty or too quick to dismiss things. This is leading us to point number 5, or the fifth way to come into your power. And this is interesting. This one is about embracing an experimental sexuality. Now, as a number 5, one topic you'll have to encounter again and again is, well, sexuality. or more broadly speaking, your sexual energy. You're an open, flexible, and experimental type. And I want to encourage you to not limit your sexuality to rigid patterns. Allow yourself to experiment, to feel and experience new and exciting sensations, to have sexual adventures, to be a little kinky. I would even say that as a five, your sexual identity may sometimes be more fluid than others. You may have a curiosity for having gay sexual experiences, even if you're not fully gay, or a threesome, and so on, or an orgy. You're naturally more open than the rest. And it's important you let your sexuality breathe. Just that space is very important in your case. Now, having said that, I also want to caveat it with a little warning, okay? And this is very important, so just listen up. Make sure to not overstep either yours or other people's boundaries. You may, as a five, unintentionally say yes to people or offers that aren't good for you out of an exaggerated sense of curiosity and rebellion and a need to do something out of the norm or hastiness, right? The hastiness, the flattening, not really being serious about what's happening, not realizing the potential threats. And at the same time, you can cross people's boundaries out of a sort of careless emotional nature that only thinks about, well, your own desires and doesn't take others' emotions or boundaries into consideration or simply doesn't take them seriously. So it's a sort of like it's a warning for you or like right like to sort of protect yourself from that because I've seen many fives feel violated eventually and you don't want to get there and you don't want to do it to others. And the last point, well, or the sixth way to come into your power, be creative, not manipulative. Okay. What do I mean by that? Well, so the last thing I want you to know is that you have an immense creative power. Truly. I mean, five is incredible. You're capable of hustling and finding creative solutions to many a problem. You're a charmer in nature, um, and that can open many doors for you. You can speak to people in lovely and impressive ways in their own language. You're very, very it's easy for you to break the ice. Now, that said, you must make sure that this charm, this creativity, this sensuality that sometimes drips off of you and is can be very attractive, right? Don't turn into manipulation. Now, this can be a tricky and somewhat misty territory because it won't always be easy or clear where to draw the line, like, right? Like, where does just your natural energy flows and when does the manipulation begins? But at least knowing this pattern is a first step. Now, the second step is becoming more increasingly aware of your motives with people. You see? Like that's going to really help you determine where you're coming from, right? So, do you see the other person? Do you have their benefit in mind as well? Or are you only trying to achieve or get something through them? Are you only using them and then sort of using your charm to get what you want through the situation? Now, this, of course, requires observation and honesty, which, as we've already learned, are not really your strongest suits. Okay? They require a more patient nature, right? Stopping, willing to like the willingness to look into yourself. But it's a very important practice for you nonetheless. So learn to harness your creative power to benefit others. to open doors for your friends, yourself, your community, and to be a radiant source of positivity and life affirming presence. This is really amazing about you as a 5. And in many ways, by lifting the mood of others and being a doorway of opportunity and for opportunity, you will feel deeply fulfilled as a 5. So I would sum it up by saying that as a 5, simply remember that your core is of dynamism, exploration, and change. Now, being fenced in won't work for you. You need openness, you need nature, and an ongoing, exciting encounter with life. You need to discover yourself anew every once in a while. So embrace this flexible and lively nature while not neglecting the sides that require regular attention, namely the sides that provide depth and deeper truthfulness to your path and your character. And before I wrap this up, if you enjoyed this episode and you're benefiting from this podcast, please make sure to follow and subscribe to my channels and click on the notifications bell. Become part of my community. And as I said already earlier, this goes a long way in helping me grow my work and keep providing you with content. So please go ahead and do that. Also, make sure to follow me on Substack, right, where I write about the meeting point of numerology and Dharma. The link to my Substack account and publication is in the podcast episode description. Of course, make sure to comment, ask me questions, tell me your opinions. I would love to hear from you, my friends. And of course, if you want to dive deeper into numerology, remember, you can check out my numerology readings. You can check out my self-study numerology courses and my in-depth numerology certification studies. That is if you want to acquire a real deeper mastery of numerology. So it was a joy for me to share this information with you, and I hope it also benefited you. And as always, I'll see you in the next episodes. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, and you want to go deeper into numerology, check out my website, tom-eckert.com. You can also book a numerology reading or even study numerology yourself through my courses. I'll see you in the next episode.